Hi, I'm Andrea. Welcome to this 30-minute yoga practice. You may notice I'm a little closer to the ground today. I'm gonna ask you if you're yin to it. We're gonna do something a little bit more restorative together today, and it does require a few more props. So you may wanna go on the lookout for something that could serve the purpose of a bolster. That can just be the cushion from your couch, or if you've got a sturdy pillow or two from your bed. Some place that doesn't have to be a yoga mat, but that you're comfortable lying down on the ground. So maybe not a hardwood floor, if you've got something carpeted or a rug somewhere. Also, a couple of blocks, or maybe you've got thick books, will come in handy for some of us, for one pose in particular. And always good to have a folded blanket or towel, just in case knees want padding or a little extra uplift for something. Once you have those things, we will actually begin lying on our back. And lying on our backs, just start with your feet hip distance, knees to the sky, one hand on your heart, and one hand on your low belly. Let's stop here so that we can start. I'd like you to feel like you are lying in the arms of the earth. And see if we can get comfortable with the concept of surrender. Often we do a pretty active practice together. This is going to be on the softer side, and for some of us, that actually might be more challenging than anything. I feel you. For me too, sometimes. 3 moments, just here feeling our breath rise and fall, and the magic of the beating of our hearts. Hug your right knee into your chest. Give it a squeeze. If it doesn't go very far, that's fine. Some of us, either the flexion in our knee or in our hip is a little bit difficult, so you can even hold the back of your right thigh if that feels better to you. Now, option to stay just as we are with your left foot on the ground, or slide your left leg straight and flex your left foot as if you were standing on something. For you, the back of your head is on the ground. I'm turning to look at you, but I'd like for you to have the back of your head on your mat or on the ground. You could even put the back of your head on that folded towel if it feels better. 3 moments where we have a bit of tactile feedback of our shoulder blades on the ground. See if they're winging out to the side and you're rounding your shoulders, and try not to do that. Use the assist of the feeling on the ground to feel your shoulder blades move towards one another a little bit, not to an extreme, and flat onto the ground, like very good posture. We'll linger here a few more moments. And then let's place both of our feet flat on the ground, hip distance, so that we start the same way that we did on both sides. And this time your left knee will hug into your chest, and you'll just see how that goes. It can be holding the back of your thigh if the flexion in your knee or your hip don't enjoy quite such a deep bend. And then optional to straighten your right leg and curl your toes back and extend through the heel as if you're standing on something. And then let's pay attention to the shoulder blades snuggle. They move towards each other a bit. They're not winging out and pressing into the ground, and the very heads of your arm bones feel like they're splashing into the arms of the earth. Let the back of your head feel heavy into the ground or your towel. And then let's release and place our feet hip distance on the ground. This time, we'll we'll take our right leg straight to the sky, or straight-ish, if that's more like it. You can hold the back of your right thigh. It might help to have a towel, even just a kitchen towel, around your thigh. And we're moving in a direction, so there's no pressure to try to straighten that right leg out. Option to straighten the left leg out too, unless that feels like more than you need. And then we'll feel our shoulder blades snuggle underneath us as opposed to wing out to the side. And all we're doing is exploring, and part of the exploration is, can you investigate a bit of length on the right side of your waist? So that's the lifted leg. Sometimes we cinch up the right side of our waist when we're going for the stretch into that right leg, and we would prefer not to do that, even if it means that our leg doesn't get as straight. It's fine. Three more moments here. And again, bend your right knee and bend your left knee if it's straight. Hip distance. And we'll switch sides. So now left leg, hold the back of the hamstring or use your towel or whatever's helpful, and move in the direction of straightening your left leg. Option to straighten your right leg as well. And then we'll note things like whether we're cinching up now the left side of our waist, and instead imagine that hip crease, your left hip crease, growing long, as if it wanted to go to the bottom edge of your mat. And then we'll tend to our upper body, snuggle your shoulder blades on your back. Feel the very heads of your arm bones fall towards the ground. No pressure to ever straighten that left leg out. We'll take a few moments here. Now begin to bend your left knee. Place your left foot on the ground and bend your right knee and place that on the ground too. We'll do a series of sweet, soft, gentle supine twists. That just means twists here on the ground. You can cactus your arms out to the side or take them straight out to the side. Scoot your hips to the right, and then let your legs just spill like a set of windshield wipers over to the left. And we'll stay like this for a moment. You're always welcome to close your eyes if you're comfortable with that. I'm getting a kiss from my dog. Maybe you'll be fortunate enough to have that as a prop as well. That's Tippy if you haven't met before. Now, option to stay here or take your left foot and cross your left ankle on top of your right thigh. If that's more than you need, go back to what we were doing before. We'll stay a few moments here. If you crossed your left ankle on top of your right thigh, mindfully place it back on the ground. Come through center and then shift your hips to the left and windshield wiper your legs over to the right, and we'll pause on this side. If you'd like, take your right ankle on top of your left thigh, but like on our first side, if that's more than you need, just stay where we were. You might notice your shoulder blades against the ground here too. Not winging out, not shoulders crowding our ears. And surrender into the earth. If you took your right ankle on top of your left thigh, gently remove it, come back to center, feet hip distance, knees to the sky. Scoot your hips to the right. This time, possibly, cross your right knee on top of your left knee and let both knees spill over to your left. If you need to do more of a windshield wipe or a second round, that's fine too. A few soft moments where we are. Easily. Come back to center and uncross if you crossed. Now scoot your hips to the left. Maybe take your left knee across and cross it over your right knee. And then both knees spill to your right. It's likely now that your left shoulder will come off the ground. That's fine. Make sure that it's interesting, but ultimately comfortable. Gently and slowly make your way back to center with your feet hip distance. And now roll to either side, it's up to you. But bring yourself gently, slowly with your head the last thing to come up into a seated position. So we were lying down for a pretty long period of time. I don't want you to come up and feel like it's too abrupt. We will want our props for our next bit. So you will find your bolster or whatever it is that you're using as your bolster and place it so that you can not sit on it. So I'm going to turn a little bit sideways so you can see me more easily, and I'm actually going to take these pom-poms out of the way. Now I'm not sitting on my bolster. I'm sitting in front of my bolster with the bottoms of my feet together. And I'm gonna show you two different ways that you can use your bolster. For some of us, it will be up against the small of our back. I'm doing this quickly, keep looking at me before you get set up. So you could lean it back and be here, but not for all of us is that gonna feel great for our low back. So perhaps your recipe is that you slide your bolster back so that the edge of it goes into your shoulder blades. Remember the shoulder blades we were just feeling against the ground? So if that's a better arrangement, you'll carefully lower onto your elbows and then onto your bolster that way. So I'll give you the choice of those two. And then lastly, you may want to have your two blocks or your thick books or whatever you're using as blocks and place them underneath your thigh bones so that it doesn't feel like it's too extreme, because we'll be here for 5 minutes, which is actually a pretty long time to hang out. And I want you to be comfortable enough that you don't have to squirm. That doesn't mean that you're not allowed to fix things, because I don't want you miserable, and I'm not saying that you have to be a statue. So we'll lie back carefully. And again, we get to feel the feedback of our shoulder blades on our bolster. And that's true if your bolster is up against your low back or if it's in between your shoulder blades. And I'd love for you to close your eyes here. find that sense of surrender again. This time we are falling into our props. Let your eyes feel heavy in their sockets with relaxation. Your neck and your throat soft, which convinces your jaw to be in relaxation. Your cheeks, your forehead. And the heads of your arm bones feel like they're cascading over the sides of your bolster towards the floor. The backs of your hands are against the ground, and it feels as though you're holding warm water in the palms of your hands. That's slipping in between all your fingers and between your index and your thumb. There's the sweetest extension through your spine, held up by your bolster. And a stretch in your inner thighs and in your hips, likely held up by the blocks underneath your thighs. I'm going to be silent for a minute and a half. I haven't forgotten about you. I want you to have the chance to meditate here in this spacious surrender. Moments where we are, can you sip in the sweetness of relaxation and heart opening, hip opening deliciousness? Just stay on your bolster and draw your knees together. Let your feet be hip distance like we were doing at the very beginning of our practice together. And you can take this opportunity just to move your blocks so that you know they won't be in your way as you dismount in a moment from your bolster. I love on the way out to straighten my legs and curl my toes back towards me. So if you want a moment there, great. If you don't, just stay with your knees bent and your feet hip distance. We're actually going to return to that in a moment if you have straight legs right now. And then bend your knees and place your feet hip distance if you were among those of us who straightened. Now, it doesn't matter to me which side it is, but I want you to be mindful that you're rolling off of something and onto one of your elbows, so roll to either side. See if you can let your head be that last thing to come up, just like when we came up from our first lying on the floor episode. And once you know that you're upright and landed, let's move our bolster off to the side. And perhaps you bring your folded towel or blanket for underneath your knees as we come to hands and knees. And this is just a soft little hands and knees sequence that I personally happen to love. So once we're on hands and knees, you may have your padded knees and perhaps you curl your toes under. I'm going to turn so that I face you just a little bit more and you can see me easily. Take your right arm up to the sky and then swoop it underneath you. I like to come onto my left fingertips, and then you can either take your head towards the ground or even take one of your blocks, place it so that your head can be on your block, take your swoop again, and then rest the side of your head on your block. If you press into your left fingertips, your left elbow goes to the sky, and you can always play a little bit with reaching that right arm, but just find a sweet spot. And stay with your sweet spot for a moment. And then unwind this side. Come on to all fours. You can just adjust your blocks so that we can head to our second side, left arm up. And as you swoop underneath, you can come onto your right fingertips. Maybe your head goes onto your block. Perhaps you prefer your head on the ground. We'll settle in and snuggle in for a few moments on this side. And then slowly unwind from this side. Bring yourself up. I'll turn sideways now so that you can see this a little bit better. We'll stay on our hands and knees, and if you need to do a little bit of a release for your wrists, you're welcome to do that. It also might feel good to come onto your fingertips for this part. Now we'll just gently tuck our tailbone and then extend like a little bit of sass, hips to the sky. Cat-cow, really gentle, really slow. Rounding and tucking our tailbone and then extending our tailbone to the side. So we're moving in our pelvis, which is important. Keeping that fluid, happy. A few more rounds back and forth. We started, let's pause now in neutral, so not tucking and not arching. And we started on our backs doing a bit of a hamstring stretch. We will finish with a bit of a, maybe sort of a almost splits. So take your blocks and place them on either side of your right leg. So step your right foot forward and then straighten that right leg. And this is enough. Slightly more intense than lying on our back, probably. If for some reason you want to slide out a little bit more, you can, but this is still a soft practice. This is a yin moment, so I want us to remember that. We'll linger here for a while. If it starts to be tiresome on your arms, you could come out a little bit and put your bolster underneath your right thigh, and then you'll have a little bit more support. careful on the way out, especially if you slid pretty far in. Ease your way out. Bend your right knee. Let your right knee meet your left knee, and then step forward with your left leg. And whatever amount of depth into it, if you will, feels good on this side. So one side can be very different from the other. Pay close attention and find a spot where the porridge is just right for relatively long hold. Last 30 seconds where we are. And then really slowly start to bend your front knee. Bring yourself gently and carefully out of your split. We're on all fours, maybe with your hands on your blocks, and we will move our blocks out of the way and off to the side. And this is our final and maybe even our most important restorative pose, our Shavasana final meditation. I'm going to roll up my towel and put this roll underneath my neck for some extra support. You can take it or leave it. The other thing that I like to do is to use my bolster, and I put it over my thighs, but you can also slide it under your knees as you get settled in. And if either of these feel good to you, great. You also might cover yourself in a blanket to stay warm. And then the ultimate surrender here. Lie back. Close, maybe cover your eyes if that's comfortable to you. Feel your shoulder blades snuggle underneath you and your heart lift up. Shavasana. Especially after a practice like we had together today, I encourage you to stay here in your final Shavasana meditation a bit longer. If you're finding your way out, you may have a bolster that you need to tend to. You can roll to either side. Let your head be that last thing to come up. Come to a seated position and maybe bring a prayer in front of your heart. Notice how you feel. Maybe you're a little bit yin to it. I'm Andrea. Thank you so much for practicing with me. I look forward to us doing it again together soon.